Alrighty, thank you everyone for joining us this evening as well. We're going to get started right on time, being in part because I think this is a very important topic, so we don't want to linger and waste any time. So with that being said, again, welcome to webinar number 8, Kneeling, Walking, and Breathing, the Bias Within. My name is Michael Lewis. I run the Village Collective, as well as I am a CEO and founder of My Bag Check, which is on-demand bag luggage pickup, secure storage, and delivery platform as well. So I'm just going to review some ground rules here. Please use the chat function. It will be open if you choose to share your socials on there, whether it be Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Feel free to do that as we're going through the discussion as well. We also will use the chat function to ask any questions. So for the most part, everybody's mics will be on mute. And if you have a question, just simply put number 1, number 2, number 3, so on and so forth. And Leslie will call on you. And at that point, please unmute your mic to ask the question that you may have. This is an open discussion, so don't feel afraid that there'll be any judgment or anything. So feel free to ask any questions that you may have as well. This webinar will be recorded, and the reason why is being in part because we do have a podcast as well too called Visibility Unlimited, which you can find on all the podcasting platforms should you need it. And I'll be adding that in the chat as well too. So again, I want to welcome you here, and Leslie will introduce herself, and as she's doing that, I'll put the links to not only the podcast, but her and I's social media platforms.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am sending someone the link as we.
Looks like she just cut off.
This is a very deep topic, needless to say, and I want to give everyone a chance to voice not only how they're feeling, how they're dealing, but I really just want to get to the root of what's happening now. And as Micah said, the title that I named this was Kneeling, Walking, and Breathing, and the Bias Within. For the new faces that are joining me, I say we are open forum, so get ready to have the conversation with us. We want to speak about race, racism, and racist, and what's the difference. And then I ask the question, what's the price you pay, or is there a price to pay for bias and racism? So I'm going to start out with, not a quote, but I want to start out with a woman in New York, and I came back when I was 15, and I always remember everyone saying, if you're walking down the street, don't yell help. People don't come out for help. Yell fire, 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 because people think it's about them and their house is on fire, and they look out their window and they may help you. So I ask you in 2020, if I am on the ground or up against the wall and I'm yelling, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And nobody still hears us. Then where do we go from here? We don't go alone. So this is really about us having this conversation together. Because guess what? I'm alive today, but I can't breathe. And I'm going to call it, and I just want to put it out there in the beginning before somebody starts going, all lives matter. If you know me, you know I am an activist, you know I'm an advocate, you know I'm a humanitarian, you know I am a chaplain. I believe in life. I believe that we get to walk in life together if we can. But this conversation this evening is about Black Lives Matter. Now, some people get very upset because they're like, oh, I don't want to be part of that organization. It's controversial. Well, guess what? I'm not speaking about an organization. I'm speaking about my Black life, my family's Black life, my nephew's Black life, my friends, your friends, or maybe you don't have friends. I'm not going to assume. That's a problem too. I can't assume that. but your next door neighbor, the person on the corner. It is at this moment, the Black community is hurting. And not only the Black community. I want to say, I will keep prefacing things because I don't want anyone to feel, and I'm not here to make anybody feel warm and fuzzy, but I want us to understand that the conversation when someone says Black Lives Matter, people sometimes get very nervous about that and they don't want to call it what it is. And so as I work with companies right now to help them build their statement and what are they going to do and what's their D&I platform, and someone said, well, do we have to say Black Lives Matter? I said, no, we have to have a different conversation right now because I'm curious why Black Lives Matter, 3 words, has you turning beet red. I'm curious why you're so upset. But yet that is a different conversation at a different time because your company believes that Black Lives Matter. And I'm happy to have the other conversation with you. So what is the other conversation that goes along with this? And Lord knows there's so much. And we only have an hour, so I'm gonna try to stay focused because I'm all over the place in my head. It is, and I'm not paying attention to chat, so you may need to tell me when there are questions because I want to speak about bias. Do we understand what bias is? And when someone tells me they don't have bias, I'm like, oh, come on, man, you're lying. We all have bias. If it's it can be as simple as I like that chocolate chip shop better than that chocolate chip shop. Well, that owner over there gives me an extra drink, so that's my favorite place. That's a bias towards something. When you add that to human beings, your bias, you may not always even know that the way you say something or do something can offend someone because you're not thinking about it. Sometimes your bias, you really just don't think about it until someone has to point out, maybe I wouldn't put in your press release right now, people of color. You're kind of going to get hit for that. We're talking about Black folks right now. All right. What is race? Now I'm going to give you my definition. I'm going to give you a definition in the book. Okay. They say that race, my definition is the color of your skin, what your skin tone is. So when you go to an application, there are people that say, well, Jewish is a race, this is a race. What do you mark on your paper? If you're white, it's European usually, or it's white. Then you have Black, you have Hispanic. We are categorized by race. Okay, so let's just call it what that is. We can do all the theological and all that other stuff. We're not doing that tonight. We're going to talk about what we deal with every day. Every day you go and you have to check that box to what you are. That's your race. What is racism? Racism is the thought that you don't like someone. You don't want to be bothered with that. You are superior than that. And this is Leslie Short speaking, anyone else. If you want to be a racist, you can be a racist all day long. I'm good with that. Do you? That's the country we live in. Have your freedom. The moment you take your racist thoughts, actions, tongues, and words out, and you project that out, that becomes racism. I am not big on calling someone, or that becomes racist. And it's a constant pattern. It becomes racist. I don't believe in calling someone a racist. I don't like to use that term. I don't like to throw that out. We are good as a society of labeling and throwing people out. They're a racist. They don't like what, and the racist goes black and white and yellow and purple, all green as well. This is not always racism is not a black and white issue. All right. What we're seeing at this moment let me take it back. Not at this moment, because Lord knows this is not new. What we have seen amplified and filmed at this moment in America is the racism between Black and white, police and civilians, police and Blacks. There is a mix. So I want us to be clear when we use terms, because there are times I always say, if you're out and you're walking down the street, and I'm going to use New York because that's where I am, not sure where everyone else is, and a car comes by and they go to hit you, me, and all of a sudden I hear, Nick, word, I won't say it here. And I'm like, well, wow, that sure was at the back of your throat. That wasn't at the bottom of your belly and you thought of a word. That was at the back of your throat. You're comfortable with saying that, right? And it's vice versa. Your Black folks are hurting today. There is a rallying cry. We have walked peacefully in the past, correct? We have stood on platforms and raised our fist peacefully, correct? We have kneeled peacefully, correct? And every time nobody has heard or wanted to come and help us breathe. So I'm tasking everyone, and I will continue to task on this call and throughout. How do you help each other breathe? Who are you in this walk of humanity? I'm a very big person on believing in humanity. I don't have the right at this moment to get angry. I don't have that luxury. I don't have that luxury because I must do this work. I won't allow the situations to make me angry. I will take my anger and I will try to do webinars and have conversations and teaching. It's my business, but it's also who I am. But it's also not everybody's Black person in America at this moment to teach. Folks aren't in the mood to teach. Folks aren't in the mood for poems. Folks aren't in the mood for black boxes. I'm gonna call it what it is on your Instagram and your Facebook. And if that black box doesn't have an action attached to it. You see, we're holding you accountable now. If you want to come with me and text me and tell me all these things, I need you to be accountable. And that accountability could be holding my hand on the day that I feel weak. That accountability is taking a link, God bless Nancy, and rerouting it and re-forwarding it and sharing it. That could be supporting Black business. That could be an author that you like. I am not asking for anyone to go out and march. I am not a marcher. I do not like crowds. That is not going to happen. So I have to find a new way. We all have something within us if you want to make that difference. Because we can't assume that everybody wants to make it better. And making it better in a post and figuring out the action that goes along with that post. What are you holding yourself accountable for? See, because the accountability, and I want to speak about different events, accountability has changed along the way. Because before the cell phone, which is a weapon and a blessing, we had to wait for news crews to show up. And that's how things were filmed. And so we found out by it being edited the way it needed to be edited. Well, that is not the case. So now the cell phone could be a blessing on capturing things. Here's the other way where the cell phone is a weapon. In the last, I'm going to say 2 weeks, we had the Floyd murder, correct? We had the Central Park, I like to call her the bird lady. She had an issue with some Black man looking at birds. So we had her calling on a man looking at birds. We've had a group of 3 Black men that went into a gym in a building. I don't know if you heard the story. And they were going to use the gym in the building that they're allowed to use it in. And white man picked up cell phone and said, call the building. I don't know why they're here. I don't know why they're here. Okay. Then 3 days ago, we have the woman that was in, I don't know what it is with parks in New York, but there was a Black woman in the middle of the afternoon sitting, having a park. Thank you, Tiff, Upper West Side. And that's where she lives, in the Upper West Side of New York. And she went out to get some fresh air because, with all this madness, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Just want to throw that out. And there was a white woman that called the police because she was sitting on the park bench and she shouldn't have been on the bench. So I'm so confused if I can't kneel, if I can't throw my hand up, if I can't walk peacefully, if I can't go for skillets, if I can't go around the corner, if I can't yell, I can't breathe, if I can't sit in a park, if I can't, somebody got to tell me something else. So I don't agree with looting. I don't agree with damage. I don't agree with violence. I don't under any circumstance. But I just gave you a whole long list of things we tried to do quietly. And nobody heard. Why is it that the rage of nobody hearing us and that lid of the pot goes and it explodes, and now the violence occurs, and it's not everyone and everything, but that violence happens the way that we see it. And now you want to hear? But now we're thugs. So I posted the thugs that were peacefully passing my apartment in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn the other night. There were no thugs. It was peaceful. There is a rally cry for justice. And very clear, we are not standing alone. We don't do this alone. I need all my white friends, brown, tan, purple, anyone that believes in what I'm trying to achieve, to walk this walk with me. I need you to, and I'm really saying I need, I need you to use your privilege and your voice for me, and with others. If you don't know what to do, that is one of the things you get to do. And you can't wait for us to tell you what that looks like. Because we're still trying to figure out how we wake up every morning and go out. There's a question. I'll pause there for a moment.
Yes, I have to start it off with the first question. So yeah, with everything that you said, as far as like the history of the silent protest or the peaceful protest, not to reiterate it, but like what other options are there aside from what's being done? And I would like to hear from anybody else that's out there that may have some ideas, because going back to just looking at the Colin Kaepernick thing, like it was literally over the news about disrespecting the flag. And today, Sports Center is talking about how Drew Brees of New Orleans Saints is still on the same narrative of, hey, it's a disrespect to the flag, after it's been said for the umpteenth time. So I would ask, like how, and this is a rhetorical question almost, like what other options are there out there to get the point across to say, hey, there's these inequalities out here, and again, I'm opening this up to anyone else who wants to share and probably give some type of answer to it as well.
I think there is, and I see some of the questions coming in. There is listen, we're not going to change everyone, and we're not going to figure it out in this hour. We're not going to figure it out in the next week. What we have to do is figure out how do we work together with those that want to work together. Okay. Those that want to say, and I hate using the word those, but those that want to say it's a disrespect of the flag, you are dishonoring my legacy, my family's legacy. I don't know if you saw today that there was, and I don't remember if he was a reporter, my day has been crazy writing statements, but in between I keep trying to read and watch the news and suck it all in. There was a statement that came out that said, I was wrong. It's by a white man. He goes, I was wrong, and I need to apologize to Cap right now. I saw you take the knee as a disrespect for the flag that I fought for. I didn't hear you and I didn't see you. It had nothing to do with that. So you're going to have some people that this may be the lid blown off, and that they may go, the light bulb hits, and oh, wow. It wasn't a disrespect for the flag. There's an injustice. So I want to take some questions before I get into what we consider injustice in the system. Mikey, can you tell me a question? I see them coming in, and I'm trying to I'm not allowed to move because of the mic, so this is very hard for me right now.
You can move. So Nance has a question.
Yes, Nancy.
Well, actually, it's just because you're bringing up the part about how violent some of the protests have gotten, and I know there's still a question, right? And I'm not sure if we even have a real answer at this point. Do we really think the looters and the protesters are one and the same? Because I'm not seeing that the protesters are actually the ones looting. And I'm sure there's always some overlap. That's one of the issues that we're all dealing with when in all of these conversations, is that there's never one simple answer, but it does seem like a lot of the looting is being done by outside forces that aren't necessarily deeply connected to the protests and what we're really trying to accomplish. So just I call people into thinking that, like just remember that they're not necessarily one and the same.
Us, we go, and I say us that think past what we see.
Right.
we go, oh, this is not right. There's some extraness going on in here. But depending on, and I don't want to speak politics, but I want to speak political and policy at a moment. Depending on what you're watching is what you're seeing and what you're feeding and what you've been breathing and living so far. So it's those thugs. I see other questions before we go in. So I'll keep talking until you open it up.
So it looks like Felicia asked about disrespect to the Bible. I assume that's in referring to Donald Trump, but I'll let Felicia clarify that.
Did you unmute me? Am I unmuted?
Now you are, yes.
Oh, thanks, guys. So I think it's interesting. There's two things I find interesting and very hypocritical, and I find very difficult to process. When racist, gun-toting, anti-government Americans rush the White House with weapons, although a small number, the president encourages them. And when unarmed, peaceful Black and white people march on behalf of Black voices and Black lives, we're tear gassed. It seems to me that that we're all being, and I know it's systematic, but we're all being told to shut up. And it takes a lot of bravery in the face of a militarized police force, in the face of harm, to go out and fight. And like you said, Leslie, if you can't kneel in quiet protest symbolically, if you can't be heard when you explain yourself, I really, really wonder, I mean, are we now sort of in a situation where we have to go back to community activation and change policy? And I would love for you to talk about what can go hand in hand with policy, and that is change through how we spend our dollars and how we tell companies that we care. And if we can't be heard in protest, maybe we can hurt their stock prices.
So let's go back a few with that. If you saw the men with guns, did any of my white friends here write the congressman and make a complaint? Was there anything that was done? Okay.
Yeah.
Because you have the voice and you have the privilege to do that. So until those things start happening, we as Black folks aren't being heard unless there's a ruckus at this moment. So there's accountability that has to be had in order for things to change. There has to be, I said to someone the other day, I was like, do you know you can walk in the halls of Congress and Senate and knock on the door and see your Congress people if you're in DC? I lobby. I'm not a lobbyist, but I go to lobby, and Sarah is here with me. We lobbied. There's families walking the halls talking about, hi, Bob. Sit the cookout. I don't see anybody back in there walking the halls. Who's the former Hill staff? Who was that just came? Oh, yes, Sarah. So there's policy all the way down. But before we get to policy, I just want to, let's come back to policy. Please don't let me forget. There is that responsibility and accountability that needs to happen, because we can write letters, right? You're asking Black folks to write letters and to do this. Let's just take the pandemic, where all of a sudden, when they realized Black folks and brown folks were the ones that were getting sick and dying the most, let's start opening back up. So, and I want to be clear, because I hate when someone says all Black folks end up in the ghetto and they don't have health insurance and this is that and the other. I come from a very privileged family, and I have the privilege of saying I am Black and I am privileged. But at the end of the day, we're walking together as Black folks. I am saying we're in the middle out here trying to survive, because whether you all know me from sitting here on this webinar or any events that we've done or all the other things, or walking through Capitol Hill, when I walk out my door, I'm a Black chick. In the conversation. The color of my skin has made people, I'm saying this very loosely because I am very blessed. I get along pretty much with everybody. But I have been called the N-word. I have been called a bitch. The color of my skin. And so I was sharing that I was at a gala in Arizona, all dressed up in a ball gown, a private, very wealthy gala, diamonds that I was allowed to borrow, the whole thing. I walk into the restroom, and the woman clutched her bag. The old white woman clutched her bag. Now, where am I going? She was so terrified by the color of my skin. Forget the fact that I was in a ball gown. Forget the fact that we were all dressed up. Forget the fact that it was a private event. Forget the fact that we both had diamonds on. None of that mattered. So these stories, you need to know that they're not one-offs, or it's not them over there in the hood and in the projects. It is myself, my friends, my sister, my mother, my father. I remember as a little girl, and maybe that's one part of the reasons outside of being chosen to dance ballet, that I am an activist today, because my father's name is Guthrie. You can't get any more southern than Guthrie. But he also owned his own business. He's an architect. And I remember him picking me up from ballet school, and he had a meeting that Saturday. And we went with his partner, Jason, who's a nice Southern man. Jason always had his cowboy boots, and he was like my second dad. But the meeting couldn't start till my father got there, because my father was the head architect and builder. And we walked in, and I sat in the corner. And I'll never forget the white man looking at my father and going, "Why are you sitting there?" This is in my father's office. "Why are you sitting there? We're waiting for Guthrie." They can never say his name right. And my father, he goes, "Well, I'm Guthrie." "Well, that's not who we're waiting for." I don't want, and then he turns and looks at Jason, the white man. Jason's like, "You better talk to him." And I never forgot that. But most importantly from that story, my father said, "If you do not want to do business with me, get up and leave. I'm done." And he started packing his stuff up. And he's like, "Leslie, let's go. We have other stuff to do." No, I'm sorry. "I'm sorry" is broken. I hear that there are two questions.
Yes. So the first one is from Camille. So Camille, you can, I unmuted your mic so you can ask your question.
Thank you. It was a comment actually from our first question regarding sort of the peaceful protests. I don't know if this is a time to delve back in there. If not, I can.
We can delve anywhere we need to go tonight.
Okay. So to your point, Leslie, I don't necessarily agree with looting. However, I'm not necessarily against it either. And the reason why is because, to your point, that we can protest with our knees. We can protest at, lunch counters. We can protest by, writing to our elected officials or making calls or, a social media campaign. And no one ever seems to hear until there is some level of destruction. And I don't necessarily agree with that. However, I think that people are finally starting to, and maybe listen. They're starting to listen to what we've been saying. And I have this pull inside of me, whereas obviously I don't want people to get hurt, and, stealing is not good. But if that's the only way that you're going to hear us, I don't necessarily think that Target is going to be hurt if a couple of Targets get burned down. And I'm sorry, but I want to be really honest and transparent about how I feel, and that if they're not going to listen, what else do you expect people to do?
I thank you for that. I don't want anything burnt down. I got my hair done in Target this week, so I was very focused. I would like not to burn down stores. I'm not making light of stuff, but I look, and here's where my heart gets broken with the burning of things. And yes, you don't hear us till we act up. But then I see the small businesses, and I know if they were in brown and black neighborhoods, they didn't 9 out of 10 get PPE loans. I know that they are struggling right now as a small business, any small business. So you're adding that on top of it. Now, some people have come out and said, if this will make people listen, burn it down. There is no right answer. Watching people get hurt, murdered, and trampled through the looting breaks my heart. It does. I don't know what it is. I am hoping. I am hopeful. Let me put some hope in the midst of this conversation. I am hopeful that this doesn't need to happen again like this. I am hopeful. I have to have the hope. Here's what helped me have hope today. I watched a Black mayor win in Ferguson. First woman, first Black person. I watched the racist congressman lose his seat, or senator. I don't want to, where's Sarah? Correct me if I'm wrong. Congress. Thank you. I watched racist, and I will call a racist. He is known for making racist comments and actions, and I've watched him lose today. I watched Nancy Pelosi appoint the committee, Hakeem Jeffries, who is the congressman who I usually lobby to, who lives about 8 blocks from me. I watched her give him the power to create new forms and bills to start writing. Because the levels that we will need to do this is, I will need my white friends that are here today, and those that could not be, to know that I'm asking you to be accountable for what you can do. And I don't know what that is, and that's okay. Everyone comes and brings something different. What I can't at this moment do, and I love you for it, I can't have you send me the article and say, look, they're trying to hire a D&I person. Maybe you should call them. Now, if you would like to do that with the LinkedIn to the contact person who I should call, then I may have the bandwidth to go and reach out. But I need you to do a little extra work along with me, if that's what you choose to do. If you would like to cut a check, cut a check. It doesn't have to be only on the ones that you list. If you're in a neighborhood that doesn't have African-American outlets, there are so many that you can still decide that you want to volunteer, do a speech, send books, help with computers, give out food. I know we're in a pandemic, so we may not want to go out. Any of those things, but there are things that can be done. If you have the power to have friends in legislation that can help write a bill, and you don't even need that. We can all sit here together and write a bill and take it to the floor. If that's what we were so inclined to do. If that's the power that you have, because this is not from only from the top, because we see where our top leadership or lack thereof is at this moment. So I can't wait for that to change. I can't wait to November. Change is now. I'm gonna still be Black in November, and I'm gonna still be Black tomorrow, and I'm gonna still be, God willing, Black keep going on until he tells me it's my turn to go. So I know that there are questions
So Ethely had a question as well too. Again, if anyone has any questions, what makes it easier if you put a sequential number in there. So for example, 4, 5, 6, it helps me keep track of it as well as it helps Leslie just identify to ask the question. So go ahead, Ethely.
Oh, so I think it's already been made, but in terms of looting, like yourself, Leslie, I don't agree with it either. But as I said to you actually earlier this morning, is that I do feel at a certain point from an economic standpoint, it's when the pockets hurt, that's when action seems to at least begin. Because up until the point where we kneel peacefully, we go peacefully. There's no real news coverage. I mean, look at the Aubrey Amar case that happened back in February. It took months before it was even addressed, and there wasn't really any looting happening in that situation. And with George Floyd, I mean, right away, there were riots, there were things in place, but truthfully, I think it really escalated to the point because there was looting and riots, and quite frankly, we'll also have been home due to the pandemic. So there's actually much more, the audience is kind of somewhat more captive than if we were going to work. So everybody's on the TV, the computers all the time and seeing what the media is portraying. But I do feel if there hadn't been some sort of economic aspect to these protests, I don't know where we would be at this point in time, because the rest of the 4 officers, the remaining 3, didn't happen until a few hours ago. That took them 9 days. 9. That third-degree murder charge has now been moved up, but again, after how many days? It basically took Fallon,
I'm going to also throw it back on my Black brothers and sisters on the call, because we have a responsibility as well. So remember when we were boycotting H&M? Remember we were boycotting Starbucks? Remember how long that lasts? And I know Tiffany's on this call, and I remember I needed a t-shirt for us, a cute outfit, of course. And I called Tiff and I said, yo, are we still boycotting H&M? Because I see a whole lot of Black folks coming out. I just need to know, because I just need a little yellow t-shirt. Can I run in or can I run out? What are we doing? So as I'm holding others accountable, please know I am also holding myself accountable, and Black folks, you need to be accountable as well. We can't want to have one way and then we turn around and be just as bored the next. So, Michael, there was a question? There's a second question?
Looks like A. Lewis has a question, so I'll unmute your mic. You can ask your question.
Hi, so this is Dr. Al. What I want to say is that as an educator, as well as a professional of mental health, I think we can start with our young people and start for educating them to how to react or respond to different situations. Just want to share with you an example that I had. I personally work with the police department in a community group. It's called the Sheriff Watch, where what we do is once a month, we come together and we meet with the sheriff's office. I'm also a co-chair of that group. So quarterly, I meet with the sheriff and sometimes the mayor. And we voice concerns in the community. So a few years ago, I brought up an issue and I gave an example. The issue was I was supposed to be participating in a walk in our downtown area, and I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. So I was supposed to be participating in a walk. So when I got there, they had started blocking off the streets. So I made a left turn, noticing they had blocked the street going forward. And I was stopped by an Italian police officer who was very angry, or at least that's how he appeared to me. And he began screaming and hollering at me and told me, say, no, we're fixing to close off this street. Don't you understand that? You can't see that? And he just went on, and I very calmly said, okay. I say, this street was not blocked off yet, so where is the parking? Let me just go around the corner, or whatever. He said, no. He had me to illegally, he took his car, put it in front of mine, and commanded me to back up down a city block. Now, anybody, and I'm just being honest and transparent, anybody that know me, I'm not a good backer up. There are crowds of people, because people have already started coming out. There are crowds of people behind, and I'm frightened that I'm going to hit someone. And
there are good cops and there are the bad cops, as we know.
So what he said to me was to go ahead and back up. So I brought this to the community group and I shared it with the sheriff. But then there were other people in the room and they say, oh no, that's not the place to bring this up. And my question was, do you do training in diversity? And yes. People were in an uproar and they said, oh, this is not the forum for that. But it is. This is not the forum for that. And so
let's talk about, I'm going to stop you there for one moment, because that's where it comes back to. Where is the forum at this point? A lot of people don't want to speak. So a week ago, I was getting tons of calls and texts about diversity and inclusion departments being dismantled, that people were being shifted all over the place. You may get a call, you may not. It's not a focus anymore. Until Monday morning, I woke up and it was unfortunately Christmas in my phone. Can you speak? Can you help us write a statement? What do we do? How do we do it? It can't be a trend. And I don't mean to cut you off, Doctor, but I know that we just have so much to get through this evening. This cannot be a trend. Diversity, inclusion, understanding Black lives is not a put in the box. And what happens 2 weeks from now? What happens a month from now when we can all go out and no one's thinking about it? Do you recognize your colleagues when you get back, whether it's to work in the office or as you're working in a box, in our boxes as we are now? Have you reached out and said, I can only imagine you're not okay. I'm just thinking about you. You don't have to tell us a story. We know the Holocaust was bad. It was horrible. We know the story of Martin Luther King. We got that. We read the Maya Angelou poems. We got that. Just saying, I can't imagine. I'm here if you need me. Those texts, those emails, those calls have meant so much. I have a really good friend, and I won't call her out, who I've known since we were 16, 15, however long we've known each other, that's on the call. And we got on the call this weekend and we cried. And all she said was, I hurt. Because I know you hurt. We need to understand that this is something different. It is not new, but there's a different tone. And so we just can't put the lid back on a pot and say we have diversity and inclusion departments, that we're going to write a statement, that I'm going to go to dinner with a Black friend, your one friend. It is about opening yourself up to say, we all have to do better. But the onus at this moment can't be on your Black friends to figure out what you do better or to hear the stories. I want to talk quickly about, there's questions and I don't see them and I'll take them. What's a champion? What's an advocate? What's an ally? A champion is you speak about us when we're not even there. You champion the cause. We don't know that. We don't even know you're champion. An advocate, you're walking and talking and pushing, and you're doing all those things. When we're there and when we're not there, when it's uncomfortable for you and when it's comfortable for you, because it's who you are. Kelly, thank you. Nancy, thank you. So many, thank you. So many of you, thank you. An ally. You can't call yourself an ally. We have to give you the title of ally. I do a lot, with disabilities and LGBT and all the other things. I don't call myself an ally. I wait for someone that sees my work or believes my walk, and I allow them, if they so choose to say, I am an ally. That is a gift. We use that word so quick. I'm an ally. Then what do? Are you there when I don't see you? Are you there when you're writing programs? Are you there when you are hiring? Are you looking at something and saying, you know what? That doesn't feel right to me. Because as Felicia said, when you're walking with the Bible down the street, no one said, I don't know about that. You playing with something else right now. That doesn't work for me. So when you speak about your pockets and the dollars of the green, at what point do you take a stand? Now, I'm not telling anybody to go run out and lose their job if anyone, we barely all holding on to what we have right now. So, but I am saying if you are in the position of hiring or recommending, you only want to recommend anyone that is qualified. But do you stop and say, can I mix the pool up a little bit? Are there other people I can bring along? Laurel, I'm going to call you out for a second. Laurel, I was hired years ago to create a mosaic marketing, because it went from multicultural to mosaic marketing before they really called it diversity and inclusion. And I walked into this office and they said, oh, we're going to give you Laurel. And I looked at Laurel with that little blonde hair and had just graduated college. And I was like, Lord, have mercy. What? Why me? Can I get some help? And I said, look, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. Can you go do this research and recruit back? When I tell you Laurel came through with sheets and research and this, and I know about this, and I was like, you know what? I need to say I'm sorry. Wow. And to this day, she has stepped up. She's a friend. She's an advocate. She's an ally. She's a champion. So many of you are that I see the faces of that I've known for so long. I say thank you. But I also say our work together is not done. I know that there are people on here that are raising children. I love to see when Kelly posts, she says, I'm so proud of my children, just said something, and I did not coax them. So when we are talking about, do we raise children? Do we need to teach them? This is the perfect time to speak about what racism is. Because see, that child that there's that picture that goes around that's in that KKK outfit, and she's touching the shield of police officers that happen to be Black. That child does not know what she has on. But that child will soon begin to listen and understand and act on the rhetoric or the belief for her family. And she may never change, or there may be something that happens to her and change, that will change. The color of our skin should not be a weapon. It should not be, you shouldn't be able to just call the police, and that's the threatening part. Not that anyone's doing anything. The threatening part is there's somebody Black in front of me. There's somebody dark. It is amazing where we've come from to where we are, to I feel like we went back again. We're just all dressed differently. That can't happen. When people say they want to say, oh, Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King, I say, yes, but you killed Martin Luther King. Did you forget that? Sorry, you killed him. So we need, so the ask is understanding your bias, understanding your race, understanding your privilege, excuse me, understanding that it can all be used for good. Just which way would you like to use it? Are there other questions? Excuse me.
One of the things I definitely want to ask is that what are three things, I guess, or how many other things you have that you think that we all can do to basically make this place a better situation? What are three takeaways that we can take from this call, this discussion, and do a little of our part to make things better?
Listen. Actively listening. Listen when we say we're hurt. Listen when we say we're confused. Listen when we say, just listen. We don't need you to tell a story. You don't have to share the story with us right now. Just listen. Just be that. Be accountable. Accountability. Hold us accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Hold your friends and family accountable. Hold your job accountable. If you're putting out a statement, if your job's putting out a statement, Black Lives Matter. 2 months from now, 3 months ago, just send an email, just wondering if they still matter. What are we doing? When's that program happening? Do you need help? I may know somebody that can help move this along. Any of those things. Take responsibility for where we are today. We can point at leadership. This was before Trump. I just don't usually call his name. This is before him. Racism and racist and bias will be after him. Okay? Voting in November will not change that. Hopefully the way that it is will not be pushed, propaganda, and elevated will change. So I ask you to vote. I ask you not to vote only in the big elections. I ask you to right now get an absentee ballot so that you can vote. And vote when it's the person in the corner. You go, who the devil are these people? I don't know. They're running for city council. I don't know those people. Figure out who those people are and vote. Because that is important. It changes. If you have not sent in the census, in New York, we are the lowest that has sent your census in at this point. So for Black folks, depending on what neighborhoods, that determines what schools you get, what hospitals you get. If you get a trash can on your corner, it's done by the census. It's really that simple. So fill that out. Tell other people to fill that out. And if I ask for anything at this time, then it's to have empathy. Empathy does not mean you feel sorry for myself or anyone else. Empathy is understanding that this is something different. And that please don't be discouraged if we don't write back or don't say, that was a great post. I try when I see my friends and allies post something that I know has come from the heart and their spirit. I try to do my part to say thank you. I see you and I hear you. Because if we don't see each other, and if we don't hear each other, and if we do not care enough of us, this will stay the same. And so I will continue to have these conversations with anyone that's willing to have them. Yes, it is a business for me. Yes, this is my spirit. This is my skin. I will continue to fight for the injustice of not having a voice when someone screams out, I can't breathe. The tattoo I have on my side says breathe. I've had that for years. That was always my way of just settling down. And if you know me, a lot of times if someone's upset, what's the word that I usually will text you all? Breathe. But that breath has been taken away. And the breath has been taken away for so many. We have filled the hashtags. You're allowed 30 hashtags. We have surpassed 30 hashtag names of Black that have been killed in these last years. We can no longer put all the hashtags and names in. Skillets has done something for a Pride Month. They've taken the color out of their package. I plan on posting that for Pride Month. Skillets have so many meanings right now that candy brings back so much right now. And so it is painful to post that at this moment. Just don't look for stories. Please.
There's one final question by Irene. So Irene, I know you typed it in there, but you can unmute your mic and ask the question directly.
Irene? And I say thank you because I know you're in London, so I know the time difference is crazy. So I thank you for joining. We've been speaking back and forth. Oh, there you are. Hello. On LinkedIn.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. As I said previously, we have a very massive protest here in London these days. So what can we do to support you, to guarantee as much support as we can in this particular moment? Because from our perspective, it's a very big difference. Seeing, looking at you, looking at what is happening right now in the US, from our perspective, is very much different. So it's very important for me to be here right now and to listen to what you are just saying. So what can we do actually in reality, day by day?
So one of the steps you took was reaching out to me. So I randomly reached out to me on LinkedIn and shared with me her D&I stories and what she was doing. And this has been going on for a couple of days. And I said, she's like, what is London now is happening? The riots are happening here. The riots are happening in Paris. We just want to be in solidarity. Be in solidarity. But if you have a platform, speak about what is going on in the States. Say that you're on podcasts. Let them know that we need people to listen. We are holding people accountable. The same message I gave to everyone today is the same message you can give to them. And continue to speak about it. You know, Europe loves to say there's no racism in Europe, but I lived there 10.5 years and I lived in Asia for 3 years. Somebody forgot to give me that memo when I lived there because it is just done differently. So have the conversations that there is a difference, and especially when someone wants to say, oh, well, they're mixed. I was called métisse when I lived in Europe because that made white Europeans feel comfortable that they said I was mixed. Well, I told you my father's name is Guthrie. My mother's name is Willie Mae. Now, they couldn't be more Southern country names because they came from the South. They are not mixed, but but that made them so much more comfortable to be able to say that I was mixed and I was exotic. Stand up when there's someone and say, have you asked them, are they mixed? Or are you just assuming because they may be lighter than the next, so that makes you comfortable? It's like calling people of color. Someone sent me a post and they were like, we're standing with people of color. I said, not with this release, you're not. You can stand with people of color, but that's not the conversation today. The conversation is about Black Lives Matter. And therefore, if you are not comfortable writing from your company, Black Lives Matter, you do not need to put out a release. Be silent, continue to listen. No but. I don't want to hear no but. I don't want to hear hashtag I'm sorry. I say it's all broken. And and so they're kind of looking at me crazy at this moment, but yet they know I'm giving them direction to try to help and not hurt. But I even don't have the bandwidth to sugarcoat it all. I want to wrap it up. I want us to have real conversations. I would like this conversation to continue. This can't be it tonight. This has to continue to go on and share more. And I will not talk so much on the next one so that I can have more questions. And maybe we'll do part 2 next week on this and visibility and transparency. Because by the time next week comes and the rest that were made today, we'll be around the world twice again. We like be the people in the spaceship up and down. Because things are moving so quick. I'm picking topics and then the next thing I know, they're happening. So I would like to I thank everyone for joining tonight. I look forward to continue the conversation. You know how to find me on LinkedIn and the cover group and Leslie Short, and for those that have my emails, for those that have reached out across the river, that has walked with me for so many years, I say thank you. I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, you need to know I see you and hear you as well. So I wish everyone safety and to stay healthy. And I will see you all soon. Take care.